Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. In this video, you're checking out an updated solo Magicka Templar build for the Elder Scrolls Online. Not only that, we have a solo 1-bar Magicka Templar build. No complicated bar swapping or trials gear necessary for this one. Just a very easy to play and very powerful build if you're looking to solo something in ESO. So stick around, we'll go over these stats, we'll go over the gear set options, skills, champion points, the outfit style. I'll talk about how you can add a second bar if you want to increase the damage, and a lot more coming up next. Alright everybody, we are back on the Magicka Templar solo PvE build. This time we are of course checking out a solo 1-bar build. Now we'll be talking a little bit about how to extend this to 2 bars, but the point of this is just to solo with 1 bar for maximum effectiveness. And as far as that goes, Magicka Templar might be the best class in ESO for that. So just keep that in mind. This is a solo build, not a pure DPS build. But let's jump right into the stats here on our Magicka Templar. 40k max Magicka, 19k max health, 10k max stamina, about 800 Magicka recovery. Don't worry though, we have a lot of other sources of Magicka recovery that don't show up on the stat sheet. 3k spell damage, that's more like 3.3k with some of our Templar passives, which we'll talk about later. 50% spell criticals, not too bad. And then our resistances, even though we are a light armor setup, do go up quite a bit. 22,000 spell and 18,000 physical. As far as attribute points, you do want 64 points into max Magicka. This is a Magicka Templar build. The Mundus, I've chosen the Thief for now just to kind of increase that critical. Have it about 50% at least. That's where you want it. I'm also using the blue food, the max health and max Magicka food. I just felt that I didn't really need the extra stamina, though you can certainly run tri-stat food for max bonus to all your stats. In terms of potions on the 1-bar build, you will need spell power potions. That's giving us our major sorcery, as well as major prophecy, giving us our 20% spell damage, 10% spell critical, super important. Now, as far as the race goes, probably the best race for this particular build is going to be High Elf. That really has to do with the spell recharge passive. So we get 5% less damage while channeling or casting. That's going to apply to the puncturing sweep skill of the Templar class, meaning we take 5% less damage while using our spammable, which is really nice. Plus the extra stamina sustain is nice with a lower stamina pool. The max Magicka is good. The 258 spell damage is good. As far as another good damage race, Dark Elf. If you need more sustain on the build, then definitely check out the Breton. That covers the basics. Let's talk about the gear next on the 1-bar setup. This is a Lightning Staff build. Lightning Staff is very good, having to do with the passives that we need for extra damage. But my first set is going to be the Light of Cyrodiil set. I'm running that on my Lightning Staff and Jewelry. What we get from this, if you're not familiar, you get the spell damage, you get 2 max Magicka bonuses, which is awesome. And then while you're casting or channeling an ability, your damage taken is reduced by 15%. Also, if you get interrupted, you get your next Magicka ability free of charge. So why is this good on Magicka Templar? Well, this ability right here, Puncturing Sweeps, which is your main spammable ability on the Magicka Templar class, this is considered a channel. So of course, while you are doing this, you're taking 15% less damage because of the Light of Cyrodiil set. Also, we have our High Elf passive, so that's another 5% damage reduction on top of that. So as far as just a pure damage reduction set for light armor, you guys, this is one of the best in the game. Still one of my favorite sets. Now, this is a PvP set. You can get it from the Cyrodiil merchants, or you can just find it pretty cheap on Guild Traders. That's what I would recommend you check out. I mentioned the Lightning Staff. I think infused with a damage shield enchant is going to be the best if you want to play it safe. If you want to do more damage, then definitely think about Sharpened or Precise with a Shock enchant. Then we are running 3 pieces of jewelry, all spell damage, all max Magicka traits on those, the arcane trait. Next 5-piece set, I wanted something with damage. We got our defensive set, now we need a damaging set. So I am running the Overwhelming Surge set, 2 pieces max Magicka, 3 and 4-piece spell damage. And for the 5-piece, when you deal damage with a class ability, you have a 33% chance to do about 1,400 shock damage, an AoE around you for 6 seconds, every 1 second for 6 seconds, and And on top of that, this did get buffed recently. 15% of the damage you deal is restored to you as Magicka. So not only is this a really cool damage proc set, but it's also a sustain set at the same time. And basically, you just need to use a class ability to proc this, and guess what? Templar, one button will get it done. This is also a class ability, so yep, you'll have a very good uptime on the Overwhelming Surge set. This is a dungeon set, so you will need to farm that yourself, but I did decide just to run this on the body, so those will be the easiest pieces to pick up. 5 light, it is a light armor set, and if you can get it, Divines will be the best in slot trait. Max Magicka on everything there. And that just leaves us with the monster set, and you have some options here. I still like running a damage shield on my Templar. So for this patch, for the Harrowstorm DLC, I'm checking out this new damage shield set called Mother Sionet. This actually has really good bonuses. It gives you max Magicka, as well as some Magicka return. You can see if your damage shield is broken, you restore 600 Magicka every 6 seconds. This has the same damage shield size as Iceheart, so you can really still run Iceheart if you prefer. Iceheart will do a little bit more damage, plus you get the extra spell critical. That's just as good as this set, so it's really up to you. But notice here, when you are casting or channeling an ability, that's how you proc the damage shield of this set. So again, everything is synergizing with the Templar channeling. This is going to give us that free 6k damage shield as well. Now, in terms of the weights on this, since we are in 5 light, I want to get that 511 Undaunted setup. So heavy helmet, medium shoulders, if you can manage that. If not, anything here would be fine. Divines, if you can get it, and I just left the stamina and the health enchants there. So that is the setup. We've got 5 Overwhelming Surge, 5 Light of Cyrodiil, and then Mother Sionet as the monster helm. Now, in terms of the skills on the 1-bar setup, again, we're running the Lightning Staff. So we've got Blockade of Storms. This is your go-to, you guys, because of the glyph on your Lightning Staff. Blockade of Storms is the best way possible in the game to proc that glyph. It's just going to proc every 5 seconds. So you get the free damage shield, you get the free AoE shock damage. You can also set your enemy off balance, meaning if you do a heavy attack, you get tons of sustain. So this is a very nice skill to run on the 1-bar setup. Then we've got Vampire's Bane. This is another damage over time effect. Blockade of Storms, if you're not aware, this comes from the Destruction Staff skill line. It's the second ability that you get. I do recommend Elemental Blockade or Blockade of Storms as the morph. That's because it has a longer 14-second duration, which is just easier to manage. Now, speaking of that 14-second duration, we also have another 14-second dot that's going to be Vampire's Bane. This does flame damage in this case. It is a Templar class skill. This comes from the Dawn's Wrath skill line. That is the first skill that you get, and Vampire's Bane is what I prefer. It's especially good for bosses in either dungeons, world bosses, because it is single target, and it has that longer duration. It matches the duration of Blockade, which is nice. Then Elemental Drain, that's also from Destruction Staff. That's the second to last ability that you get. Elemental Drain gives you both the Major Breach debuff, so that reduces your target's spell resistance. That means all of your attacks hit for more damage. And it also gives you Minor Magicka Steal on that target, giving you 300 Magicka every 1 second. So when I talked about the sustain on this build, you're getting basically 600 Magicka on your stat sheet that doesn't show up normally. So this is a ton of sustain on the build. Now for our main spammable on the 1-bar setup, Puncturing Sweep. This is the classic Magicka Templar spammable. Comes from Adric Spear. First skill you get. Puncturing Sweep is the Magicka morph. So of course this does magic damage. Does a little snare in front of you, but you also heal for 41% of the damage done. So that's basically your go-to spammable ability. You're doing damage and healing yourself at the same time. That means we actually are not running any other heal on the build. This one skill really can do it all, and you can get it from level 1 on the Templar. So it's super, super strong. Definitely a great ability to have. And our last normal ability is going to be Channeled Focus. That's from Restoring Light. That's our defensive buff. It's the last ability you get here. Channeled Focus is the Magicka morph. So you get your Major Resolve. That's 50 to 80 spell and physical resistance. You also get the Magicka Recovery. So just like Elemental Drain, we're getting 240 Magicka every 1 second. So more Magicka Recovery coming in. And also, some people forget this, but standing in the rune, in this little circle, this gives you 50% extra. So make sure if you move around that you recast your rune. It's super cheap. But make sure you're standing in this location for that 50% extra defenses. So then in terms of the ultimate, I'm just running the Thunderous Rage ultimate. That's from Destruction Staff. Elemental Rage is what it's called. This is going to be your best option just for a burst ultimate. So if you're trying this out in VMA or in a dungeon, world boss, you need to get something down quickly, then go ahead and pop your Thunderous Rage. If you want something a little bit more defensive, then Solar Disturbance, aka Nova. That's going to give you about half the damage of the Destruction Staff ultimate, but you also get Major Maim, so that reduces your enemy's damage by another 30%. So you can think about what you need there and swap that as needed. All right, so let me grab a boss here and we can talk about the basic 1-bar rotation. Of course, you want your potion. That's your main buff for your damage. And then your rune for your defenses. And then really we're just going to start with Blockade. And then Vampire's Bane. Make sure Drain is on. And then just channel Sweeps all day long. Remember, Sweeps is going to proc our damage shield. It's also going to proc our Overwhelming Surge. So it gives us basically everything that we need. So there's my wall. There's my Vampire's Bane. Go ahead and put Drain on and then just channel my Sweeps. You can see my damage shield procced. I do have the Overwhelming Surge proc up right now as well. It's hard to see. And then a few seconds go by. You'll just want to recast wall. Recast Vampire's Bane. You can see I'm taking almost 0 damage here. I'm just going to stand in the red here. No problem. Make sure my potion is up. Drop your AoE. Drop your ultimate as needed. You can see my damage shields pop up right away. And I'm just sweeping for days on this guy. All right, that's enough. Good fight, good fight. Now, the 1-bar setup is extremely strong. As you can tell, the damage and the survivability are huge. If you want to extend the build, all you really need is a second lightning staff. I wouldn't run Cyrodiil's Light on the back bar. I would run just something else, like maybe a willpower staff, or if you happen to have it, even the Maelstrom staff here is going to be great. The main thing that you want is just an infused trait with the weapon damage enchant. That's going to mean you get about an extra 600 spell damage every 5 seconds. So that's going to push our damage closer to 4K spell damage on the Magicka Templar, which is really, really good. That's really the only thing that you would need is that infused back bar lightning staff. I would keep everything else the same, Cyrodiil's Light on the front bar. Then in terms of your skills, most of these would stay the same, but like your dots, you would just switch those to the back bar. So Blockade of Storms, Vampire's Bane, those could all go back bar, as well as your Channel Focus, because that's a buff. You could put that on the back bar. And you could just get some passives here. Like I would put Mage Light maybe on the front bar. That's from the Mage's Guild. The Inner Light Morph gives you that extra max Magicka, as well as Major Prophecy. You could also run Degeneration from the Mage's Guild. This will actually give you that Major Sorcery buff, since we don't have that on the Templar class from any class skill. So this will mean you can use just a Trash Potion, a Magicka Potion if you want, by slotting that. And then for our last ability, really anything here is fine. I do like a Psijic Order ability if you happen to have the Somerset chapter. You could put something like Channeled Acceleration here. That will actually give you a nice buff to your crit damage. And then through the passives, you get an extra damage shield while blocking on the front bar. So that's really good. And then in terms of your back bar, if you are switching to an off bar, then like I said, just run your dots on the back. You can run Blockade, Vampire's Bane. I even had Blazing Spear here. That's from Adric's Spear. That's another Templar class damage over time ability, AoE, so that goes in really well with our other two. And then the other really good ability to run on Templar is Ritual. I do prefer Ritual of Retribution right now. That's because I get healing as well as damage in this huge AoE. So again, if you're running the 2-bar setup, definitely think about putting that on your back bar. Of course, we do have our Channel Focus rune still as well. You can run Destro ult on the back bar and then whatever front bar ultimate you want. You could run Temporal Guard from the Psijic Order. You could even run Ice Comet or something like that for the passives on the front bar. So that's how I would update that. Not too many changes there. I do want to briefly mention the Templar passives, though, because some of these are better than others. Now, Adric's Spear, for example, has a lot of passives. I think you want to pick up most of these. Piercing Spear, definitely get this. It increases your critical damage by 10%. Then Spear Wall gives us minor protection for 6 seconds. This is huge. I forgot to mention this. Especially on the 1-bar setup, you get that for free just by casting Sweeps. You can see that little 6-second buff pops up every time I channel that ability. That's going to reduce my damage even more. I've got the 15% from Cyrodiil's Light, 5% from the High Elf, 8% from Minor Protection. It does really help. So that's called Spear Wall. Definitely get that one. Burning Light just gives you some extra bonus damage from your spear abilities. And then Balance Warrior, we don't really use the weapon damage, but the spell resistance is nice. Now Dawn's Wrath, these are excellent as well. Enduring Rays, that's going to increase the duration of Vampire's Bane, so that's important. Prism does give you ultimate back. Make sure you get that one. Illuminate. This is the minor sorcery buff. This is unique to the Templar class, and that's the reason why your Templar can have some of the highest spell damage in the game. You get a 10% spell damage boost just by casting any of these abilities. That's why even for the 1-bar setup, you must have one of these on your bar. And that's why I recommend Vampire's Bane, because that's going to give us that extra 10% spell damage. The Restoring Spirit is good too. This reduces cost. Make sure you get that guy. Restoring Light, a lot of these you can skip over. They have to do with like Resurrection, like Light Weaver and Master Ritualist. You can probably drop these. The best one is going to be Sacred Ground, because this gives you minor mending. And that's when you're standing in one of your runes. So for example, I switched it to my back bar, but Rune Focus, that gives me that little green buff on the bottom. That's minor mending. That means my healing basically from my sweeps is going to be 8% stronger. So that's a very good passive to get. Now, Destruction Staff, you do want all of these, as well as all of your light armor passives. Those are super important for more damage, more penetration, and more cost reduction, as well as recovery. Get all 5 of those. Medium and heavy armor, you can get a few of these if you have 511. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. As far as guild skill lines, yes, you can benefit from Mage's Guild if you're running the 2-bar setup. Otherwise, we just really don't have enough slots to run Mage's Guild, so then you won't need those. Same thing with Psijic Order, you won't need those unless you're running the 2-bar setup. But as far as the Undaunted Guild, yes, you do want this if you happen to have that on the character. In this example, I'm getting 6% bonus stats across the board. This is really good. Assault and Support, you absolutely do not need those. That's really not necessary. Of course, racial skills are, and then Alchemy Medicinal Use is going to be very important on the 1-bar setup to maximize those spell power potions. Okay, as far as champion points, I just want to talk about basic setup for the 1-bar. Starting off in the green tree, 37 Warlord, 23 Sprinter, 27 in Tenacity, 19 Healthy, 43 Arcanist and Mooncalf, 51 Shadow Ward, 26 into Tumbling. In the blue tree, we got 11 Blessed, 37 Elfborn, 56 Elemental Expert, 38 Spell Erosion, 16 into Staff Expert, 56 Master at Arms, and 56 Thaumaturge. In the red tree, we got 72 Ironclad, 49 Tardy and Elemental, 31 Thick Skinned, 2 Light Armor, 56 into Bastion. This does affect things like Seeing-It, as well as your Hardening Enchant on your Lightning Staff, so make sure you put some points here. Even if you only get this to 10%, it's a good bonus in my opinion. And then just 11 into Quick Recovery. Last but not least, the outfit style, in case you're curious, Under Armor styles. This is all the refabricated style from Halls of Fabrication. So I've got that, on the robe, on the waist, hands, legs, and feet, as well as the staff. I really, really like the staff. I think that looks great. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this solo 1-bar Magicka Templar build. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, if you did, don't forget to crush that like button. That absolutely helps the channel. Make sure you're subscribed for more future build videos, guides, and content right here on YouTube. And as usual, I'll have some gameplay for you here at the end in case you want to see more about how the build plays. It's excellent, it's really strong, and it's been a lot of fun to play this. I'll try to have some more gameplay maybe later next week as well, so keep an eye on the channel for that. Until then, thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you around in the next video.